Others are those who appreciate what we might call the cultural spine that we have, that we're willing to say obvious things out loud through the microphone with the lights on and the Bible open. That's not easy to find.
Welcome to Grounded, a podcast for restoring the church to a biblical foundation. And today we're interested in a church that's being planted, a church that's being founded and established in Washington, D.C. The soon-to-be pastor of that church is a gentleman who's with me today. His name is Brooks Potteiger. And you're going to be the pastor leading Christ Church, Washington, D.C., also known as Christ CREC, D.C. It is a CREC, Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches. A church planted, we might say, is this correct if I say this, planted by Doug Wilson's Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho?
Yeah, I mean, as of now, so technically it is a service of Christ Church. So it's one of their services just 1,500 miles away.
It will become an independent church, not independent, but it'll become an autonomous church soon.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah. So you haven't actually moved there yet.
We're just north of Nashville, Tennessee, in Goodlettsville. Wonderful place, only Goodlettsville in the country. A little trivia for you. And I planted that just over 5 years ago. And this coming Lord's Day will be my final sermon at Pilgrim Hill as the lead pastor. Although I will be back the first week of October. They're not getting rid of me that easily. We have a council, CREC council in Nashville in October. That happens every 3 years. The council is in Nashville, so I'll pop over to Pilgrim Hill after that. But yeah, it is a significant moment in my life, in the life of my family and the church. Yeah.
Very significant. Can you, don't do this if you don't want to do this, but can you give us a sneak peek? What are you going to preach for your last sermon in that church?
Oh, I don't mind at all. So my last three sermons, we were in John. So I ended in chapter 8. Pastor Clint Lum, who my associate who's taken the reins, is going to carry the John baton for me. But the last three sermons, I really just wanted to focus in on cultural hallmarks, what we were founded on, and keep going. More of this, keep doing this. And so the first one was on covenantally minded. Let's understand what it means to be a covenant community and why that is so peculiar in our day, and why that is at the center of a healthy church over decades. The second one was on a theology of worship. I called it heavenly worship that shakes the earth. And so understanding that what we do in worship on the Lord's Day is the most potent, the most important kingdom expanding work that we do all week. Thessalonians, where Paul says, you're already doing this, more and more, just more of that. And then this week will be on what I'm calling a gospel-wrought gratitude, and being a people that just abound, default with gratitude to God for all that is ours in Christ, and letting that continue to be a hallmark of our life together, drawing from Philippians 1, 3-6, where he begins with, I thank my God in all my remembrance of you. And so kind of giving a little exegesis of that, and then really telling Pilgrim Hill what I thank my God for about them and what they need to keep thanking God for as they move forward.
Nice. So, by the way, I'm a pastor north of Baltimore a little bit, so it's probably, if traffic will behave, and that's a big if traffic will behave one Sunday morning when I'm not preaching here at our church, I'm probably an hour and a half from the church where you're going to be pastoring. You might see me sitting there one day.
Oh, I'd love it.
My wife and me, I'd like to come down there. We're not a CREC church, but we're very favorable toward. We love what's going on there. We feel real kinship, so I would love to come down there and visit with you. Let's move to that church then, a new church in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. So I know you're not, well, you're going to be the first pastor, but they kind of planted it. It's their service, but you're partaking in it. Why? So what gap do you see in churches? There are lots of churches in D.C. There's Capitol Hill Baptist Church, Mark Dever, and others. Sure. But why? You're going to be very close to them geographically, I think. Mm-hmm. Why?
Yeah, right around the corner.
Another church. Like, what's the vision? What's the purpose? What gap do you think you're filling? What's missing down there? Speak to that, would you?
Yeah. Well, on a very practical level, like Capitol Hill, love those guys, but they're Baptist, which is totally fine. But we're Presbyterian.
So am I, by the way. So be careful here.
Yeah.
I'm Baptist.
But even practically, like for instance, they don't accept pedo baptisms as legit baptisms. And that's a real problem if you're a Presbyterian. And so even with conversations I've had with some of the pastors there already, they've expressed a gratitude that there's a solid Presbyterian church that they can recommend for those who in good conscience can't be there. So I'm thankful for that. But I think for us as a denomination, we have a core group of people in DC. So we want to provide a place for them. But also there are people who we want working in DC who wouldn't if there's not a church that they believe in. That's probably overstated. If the church is a priority for them. And so we want to create something where people who are either appointees or who would give themselves to important work in the city, they can come and have a home, have a church home there as well, be fed the word and worship the way that we value.
That's a good answer. That's a good reason to establish another church in Washington, D.C. Man, I just think this is like Paul being in Rome, man. You're going to Washington, D.C. Like that is the city of power. It feels very much
like leaving the Shire for Mountain Dew. Far easier to stay in the Shire, that's for sure.
Yeah, may it not prove to be your Mount Doom. So the church, which is now an extension of Moscow's church, but having services for a few months now. And Pastor Doug told me recently in Grounded, he was on Grounded with me, and said there are already over 100 people showing up there pretty regularly. So you might have already answered this in your previous comments, but how come? That's pretty rapid growth for just a service that sprung up somewhere. Who are those 100 people? Who's showing up? Why are they drawn to this ministry? And if you have to just repeat yourself a little bit, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, that's no worries. Yeah, I'd say on any given Lord's Day, it's between 150 and 200. And that's already all that we can fill where we're at. So it's last time I was there was probably 15 people standing in the back. A good problem to have, but one that we are trying to address in real time. Many of them are CREC folks already. And so this is just the most natural fit for them. Others are those who kind of appreciate what we might call the cultural spine that we have, that we're willing to say obvious things out loud through the microphone with the lights on and the Bible open. That's not easy to find. Yeah, and so I think they have appreciated the tagline for Christ Church is all of Christ for all of life. So Jesus is King everywhere. Capitol Hill, Main Street, Jesus is Lord. And we acknowledge that overtly. And there are those who more and more are appreciating and even seeing the biblical command to do that. And so we're not a political church. We're not a political arm or anything like that. But we are Bible preaching Christians who, think Christ is Lord of all because he is.
Aside from the cost of living, do you anticipate unique challenges pastoring a church in Washington, D.C. compared to your previous church?
For one, it's obviously spread out across the district and then Maryland and Virginia as well. And so that's just a unique challenge is where you're drawing people from the four winds of the greater DC area. And so in any given moment, some parishioners could be 2 hours apart from each other. And so and then you have traffic. So the practicalities of how do you get the saints together, we'll have to figure that out. And whether that's parish groups or other ideas, that is not a unique problem, but it is unique in the sense of traffic and all of that. So, but at Pilgrim Hill, we have some folks who come from an hour and 15 minutes north and 45 minutes south. And so we experience that to some degree here, but here kind of the majority middle, it's not going to be that outskirts and the traffic isn't as bad as DC. I mean, I'm not there yet. And so I'll have a better answer for you in 6 months on the practical challenges. But I think location's a big one. I think probably also the pace of life, the busyness of folks, and how do you take meetings? How do you practically minister to the saints? Take counseling sessions and that type of thing. I think that will be the challenge of that will be unique. But I'm not exactly sure what that'll look like on Monday morning.
Yeah, I imagine you're going to have an unusually high percentage of, let's say, government employees among your people, maybe some military. We have a good bit of military where we are because we're right next to Aberdeen Proving Ground. You might not have heard of it, but it's our county's biggest employer by far, I think. So you have military, maybe people in things like think tanks, a lot of high-end people, high-pressure jobs and all that. Yeah. But you're in a very political place there, and you said a moment ago, and I'd like you to say more about this, please. You'll be a church. You won't be a political movement. How do you do that? How do you be a church that speaks openly, states the truth like you want to with a Bible in your hands, and yet you don't become a political feeling organization?
Yeah, well, I think one is it's understanding what the church is and what the Lord's Day service is, and doing expository preaching. I actually think expository preaching is one of the ways you do it. You are just looking to exposit the text and then to apply it to the saints here. Now, of course, as the text speaks to cultural issues, obviously that's part of the life of these saints and what the church needs to speak prophetically into. And so we don't shy away from that. But that is not the primary goal. The goal is to minister to these Christians, build them up in the faith, build them up in the word, and then you go be Christians for the 6 days of the week now and come back and we'll do it again. That is the game plan, is to worship the living God, be transformed from one degree of glory to another as the body of Christ, and then leave a dent in the darkness where we're at as much as we can. There is no ulterior motive. That's plan A. And so I think it's just staying focused on mission, even though we're in this heightened context. Some application may apply to that, but we're just doing church. And I think that's part of the reason why, to my shock, as much as anybody else's, they approached me with seeing if I'd be willing to. I just want to be a pastor. And I think they appreciated the culture of Pilgrim Hill, what the Lord has produced here, and just kind of wanted that ordinary faithfulness in DC. That's what we're trying to do there. Not a high-powered, politically minded, savvy guy. If they want that, they got the wrong guy. There are men that are far better at that than I am. There's podcasters in my congregation that are far better than I am. But I do love to pastor. I do love to sit with couples who are having challenges and to minister to them and bring the word of God to bear. And I do love preaching the word and administering the sacraments and leading the charge of worship. I love being a pastor, and that's what I intend to do there.
Yeah. So you're making a transition for me. I wanted to make this transition now. Let's talk less about the church and more about you personally. Why, if you can answer this, why did you say yes to this call? I mean, you're in a beautiful place. You have a wonderful church. You love your people. You planted that church. You guys have roots there. I'm assuming you have kids. You'll be uprooting your kids, moving your kids to Washington, D.C., of all places. What led you and your wife and your family and your church, I assume, they gave you the okay on this. They're releasing you with their blessing. Why did everybody involved, why did you in particular say, yes, I will move to Washington, D.C. and pastor that church?
That is the question. Because when I first got any wind, my initial gut was incredibly honored and totally impossible. But I said I would be willing to lean against it in prayer. I won't say no, I'll lean against it. And if, as me and my wife do, and seek counsel, if we sense that the Lord is opening doors, we will, one step at a time, follow that. And discerning the will of God is a strange art. I think as me and my wife did it, one, I have the most wonderful, supportive wife who is Tennessee bred, never been outside of Tennessee. And I trust her obviously more than anybody in my life, and for good reason. She is the wisest person I know. Her willingness to be open to it surprised me, and was the first okay, well, let's give ourselves to praying about this. As we zoomed out and read the story that we thought the Lord was writing, it became clearer and clearer. Okay, I do see the providence of God in this. Stonewall Jackson's one of my heroes, and he received a professorship at VMI. And before he went up, one of his friends asked him if he was sure that he was to do this because he was not a good professor. And his response was, the appointment came unsought and was therefore providential. No, there's great wisdom in that. You can't copy and paste that over every situation.
By the way, let me just interject quick that my wife's born and raised raised in Lexington, Virginia.
Oh, okay.
She lived near Lexington when I met her. We met at a college in D.C. But also, one of my sons went to VMI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we kind of loved that ethos. So,
Yeah.
been there, done that. I think in the town of Lexington, if you haven't been there are more columns on the buildings per square mile than anywhere else I've ever been in my life.
Very stately, very regal. I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful down there.
So I think I got over that initial hurdle of this just feels crazy to, man, maybe the Lord is doing this. Maybe he would write that into the story. And, I go back to the Lord of the Rings. We have our kids, we're constantly in Lord of the Rings. We love that and other, of course, great books. And we long for our children to be the best characters in the story they can be, right? And then you're presented with what could be a providential, very unique opportunity that really matters in a significant way in our day and time. And then my impulse is to shrink back, right, and to say, no, somebody else should do that.
Yeah, not me.
And it's like, no, maybe you should have an imagination for being a better person in the story than you might feel comfortable with, be a better character. And and so there was just kind of several confirmations that came back to back that, I remember the first time I realized I was being called to be a pastor back in 2012, or at least to pursue pastoral ministry. And I remember thinking, crap, I think I'm supposed to be a pastor. No, it was kind of like crap. I think the Lord has called me to this. It's not something I would have ever written into the story, but he's always writing a better one. And so I'm going to trust him here. And this is not an easy transition. We have lots of kids, several that are staying for college in Tennessee. And that has been the biggest weight on me as we've considered this. And of course the church. But we certainly have a piece that this is of the Lord in this season.
So Pastor Doug Wilson and the team, the people there in Moscow, and whoever else they got involved in it, they tapped you on the shoulder. Any idea why? What led them to you? I mean, I'm sure there are other guys out there.
Yeah.
But they said, no, we want Brooks. What was that? Do you know?
I should say, and their, not defense, but it was not a hard sell at all. It was, thought about this. If it's a no, you'll never hear from us again. And so they were very gracious and very humbly said, you can consider, and if not,
nice.
Fine. I think going back to something I said earlier, I think they appreciated the simplicity, the earthy simplicity of Pilgrim Hill. We are a robust, lovely congregation who loves to sing out, but we're more simple here. And I think they appreciated that, not that I'm not tempted towards ambition or pride or vanity or any of that. Certainly used to be one of my great idols, which the Lord has disabused me of greatly. But I don't have aspirations to have my name in lights. I would far prefer to stay in my hobbit hole. And I think they actually, that was a feature, not a bug in this, where I'm willing to go and preach the word and to pastor. But I'm not the smartest man in DC. I don't have the most brilliant political theology that I'm eager to impress upon everybody. But I do desire to be a faithful pastor and to trust the maturing work of the Spirit in a congregation. So I think that's one. I think also I do have some familiarity with DC. I've been at the Pentagon and obviously know the Secretary of War. Now, you don't hitch yourself to any DC wagon that's an appointment, because only the Lord knows how those things go. But that the fact that it wasn't completely foreign territory, I think, was also probably a plus. Now I can't speak for them, but I would imagine so.
I'm happy you mentioned our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, whom I esteem very highly. And have you and he been in the same church, or has he been a member of your church in the past?
Yeah, so he came to Pilgrim Hill probably about 3 years ago. So he's been a parishioner here for several years.
Maybe based on something he said in a book that I read, maybe he moved there to be part of your church.
Well, he actually moved. He got really into the classical Christian education movement, which is what he wrote his book about. And so this was one of several schools that were recommended. It happened to be the school where our children went as well. And so that was the initial contact point. And then we were just one of the churches in the area.
If I come down to your church one Sunday when I'm off and I'm not preaching, is there a chance I'll get to say hi to Pete Hegseth?
There's certainly a chance. There's also a lot of protesters who are looking to say hi to him as well. So join the crowd.
Yeah, you might have some noise outside a lot, huh? Has there been a lot of noise already?
Yeah. There's protests. There's paid protesters, and so there's people just collecting checks, and then there are those who are genuinely hostile to our work, and that's all right. We call them our hostile friends of limited vocabulary.
Yeah, and they're all giving you publicity, so may the Lord use it.
We praise God. I mean, we have to shield our children from the obscenities, so there's that. But to us, it is just a neon blinking sign of what Christ is doing.
What do you want people in D.C. to know about the church there? What do you want people in D.C. to say about the church there? When they think of your church, they make comments. Like when I think of the one I best know in D.C. is Capitol Hill, Mark Dever. There's so many good things you can say. I would differ with them in some things, the way they do this, the way they approach that, but fine people, good people. I've been there. I enjoyed the worship. They have a long service, man. But anyway, what are you hoping people in D.C. will say about Christ Church? DC?
I would hope that they would say, these are the most thankful, most joyful people I've ever met. I've never seen women who look so well loved as they do at Christ Church. I've never seen men who take the mantle of masculine leadership with such biblical humility and joy and sacrifice. I've never met such children that are eager to worship. I've never seen people who are so excellent in their craft and very careful in their thinking. I've never seen people who love the word and trust the word. And I've never seen people who are so joyfully bold to share Christ, even when they know they'll be ridiculed for it. It doesn't faze them. Things like that.
Well, that's wonderful. I love that.
Yeah.
Brother, may the Lord bless you richly in this new endeavor. May he give you grace and hold you up and strengthen you and give you uncommon wisdom beyond your own, so that the name of Christ is really lifted up and glorified in Washington, D.C. I can't imagine if somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and it's not going to happen now because I'm an old guy. If somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, we want you to come pastor a church in Washington, D.C., I really wouldn't want to.
No, it is easier to stay. That's for sure. But again, we want to be the best characters we can be in the story he's writing, and so it's all by faith. That's not cliche. That's real. Feel it every day. And that's one of the things I know he's forging in me. Is faith. He has to do it. I'm not smart enough. I'm not a good enough preacher. This is an impossible task. And that's a feature, not a bug. And so every day I feel my dependence on the Lord in a new way, in every way through this. He's doing 1,000 things. We perceive 2 or 3 of them. And so I'm trusting him that his hidden wisdom will be made manifest in time.
Amen. Brooks Potteiger. I almost said Potteiger again.
It's so hard not to, I know.
Brooks Potteiger. I'd say it 10 times.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a wonderful conversation. Really appreciate it. I do hope that I'll actually get to shake your hand one day down at the church in D.C. We'll see if that happens. I'm afraid of traffic on Sundays.
Oh, come on down. Yeah, but plan it. We would love to have you. Maybe have lunch afterwards, and that would be a real blessing. So
that'd be a very special treat. You just sweetened the pot. Yeah. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on Grounded today. Hope you'll like, subscribe, do all those things that good podcasters do. We will rise up and call you blessed. See you next time.